Pangori Panthrodillam. Welcome to the Retro Adventurers. We're delving into the very deepest depths of ancient computer technology and wonderful text adventures that run on it. Here with me today are Nicholas Moffat and Jason Compton, long-time contributors to the podcast. And you've got me, Ben Collier, in charge today. So sorry about that. Right. Good morning and afternoon, chaps. How's it going?
It's been a good day. I mean, I guess it's just morning for Jason, but I think it's afternoon for the two of us.
It certainly is. So it's been a hard week of work. I'm completely knackered, but hopefully it won't have an adverse effect on the podcast. So the way we normally do this is we will start with a bit of news and a bit of other oddities. So I'm going to go first. I think I'm afraid the last time I was on here, I caused a bit of a controversy. I'm afraid I was playing Lancelot, and I made a statement. I'm afraid I made a very unfortunate statement about the Amstrad PCW, and I'd like to apologize to all of you out there who are big fans of the PCW. I let you down. Lancelot does have graphics on the PCW. They make my eyes bleed. They are graphics.
This apology brought to you by Ben Collier.
Yes, indeed. The harmful sensation of Lancelot on the PCW.
Absolutely. I had one of those strange things where you know, like a sort of a third eye picture or something like that, or my eyes were sort of stayed out of focus for about 5 minutes after looking at the picture. So to the fellow online who pointed this out, my apologies. It looks a delightful thing to play, the graphical PCW version of Lancelot, and yes, it does indeed have graphics. And my apologies to the PCW community. I think there's been a bit more controversy that wasn't caused by me this last couple of weeks, right, guys?
Well, we are in the middle of a fluid situation, and this will be sometime in the future when everybody hears this. But if you follow the Retro Adventurers Blue Sky account, and I do encourage it, every once in a while there's been something that's come across about the Ink console, which claims to be an e-ink platform for choice games. But whether or not it's really a real thing is highly in question, let's say.
Oh, interesting. So it's vaporware.
Well, it has the whiff of vapor. Of vapor. Ooh. the whiff of vapor. Go ahead, Nick. Nick, say more.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that it does, however, seem like friend of the show, Andrew Plotkin, did look a little bit into it and did actually get in touch with some of the people involved. And there was at least some signaled change in their design criteria for the device, because it seems like one of the things that the community had kind of been a little bit confused by was some of the design choices didn't seem to make sense for a device like that, which I think may have led to the conclusion by a lot of people that it's vaporware. And
it claims to have a game called Zork 5. There's some stuff that gets pretty rickety when you look too closely. So we will keep an eye on this, but for now, I would say you don't need to put down anything in the Zork.
How exciting! Well, listeners. If you fancy a bit of that sort of thing, now's the time to go online and get involved in the flame war that is probably still raging by the time this episode goes out. Don't do that. Look it up and make your own mind. This is the first I've heard of it.
But so, speaking of amends, Ben, you did that sort of half-hearted apology. I think to make amends to the PCW community, the next time we have a game with graphics on PCW, I think that must be the platform that you use.
Indeed.
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
You don't suffer from migraines, do you?
Any kind of sort of visual disturbances. We'll have to put a bit of a warning on that one. I've been meaning to get my glasses changed, and I'll almost certainly need to get a different prescription after I've been playing that game on the PCW. So I'll wait. I'll wait until we have that happen, and then I'll go and get my glasses redone.
Consult a medical professional before engaging in text adventures on the PCW.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely right. Yeah. Okay, super. Well, with that all done, I think it's time for us to move on to our first game. So, the SAM Coupé Adventure Club. This is a really, really odd one. Some time ago, we were all chatting on our kind of forum, and we were trying to find ideas for interesting random things to look at. especially in the appetizer section. And we found this SAM Coupé Adventure Club. It looks like it happened. I think they had 13, kind of unlucky 13 episodes of this thing. And so I said to Jason, well, what with the SAM Coupé? And we've discussed this in previous episodes. So I'm not going to sort of retread that one. But it's kind of a weird thing, and people like weird stuff. So let's give it a go. So we decided, Jason very, very kindly, sort of, I think you wondered, and then you said, okay, let's go for it. And so no, we did. We had a look at this the first one. We said, let's do the first of these SAM Coupé Adventure Clubs. And we went away, and I had a look at it, and I got a SAM Coupé emulator up, and I ran this thing up, and I had to learn all about various sorts of SAM Coupé Basic, and loaded the magazine, and got to the menu, and found the menu item for the game, and it didn't do anything. And on some additional investigation, I discovered that it was included as an image, and you then had to create an image and then load that image as in the disc, and then you could play the game. I assume you had the same sort of experience.
Yes. So I used an emulator called SAM Coupé, which I think, if nothing else, that name justifies this whole episode.
Same.
I mean, that's
same,
fantastic.
Same.
Yeah. And so I was able to use the function keys to sort of, map in discs and tapes as I liked. But yeah, like you say, you get to this beautiful. I mean, it makes really good use of the graphics that are clearly much more advanced than the Spectrum. You get good splash screens and a good interface. It felt much more like, I'm going to betray my history here, but it felt much more like a Commodore 64 disc magazine than a Spectrum thing. Yeah. And so yeah, you go and you go to the free game, it says, and you tap on it, and it says, here's the intro screen, and here's a scrolling bit of text you kind of have to take notes on, giving you the instructions of how to pull this snapshot image out of, I presume it was at the end of the disk image file somewhere. And it said, and you can use this tool. Well, that tool also has an entry in the menu for the magazine, but you look at that and it seems more like an advertisement for the tool. So it wasn't, so basically it was telling you, hey, SAM Coupé experts, you can use this tool in this mode to get this image out. And I'm sorry, I gave up and I went and I found a tape image for the Spectrum and I loaded it there.
Which is the sensible thing to do. I do think we need, for the broader audience, to explain just what the hell is happening here.
Exactly.
Ben kind of ran over it, but I think it's important to back up, because the SAM Coupé is this computer that was a terrible idea, and not alone in being a terrible idea, because the thing it actually reminds me of the most was the abandoned design that Commodore was doing for what they internally called the 65 or the 64DX, where it was this just on the cusp of having 16-bit power like an Amiga or an ST machine. This computer comes out 1991. It's like a Spectrum on steroids, and yes, has these emulator modes where you can load Spectrum 48K images and so forth. And I hadn't really spent much time in SAM Coupé before, so seeing this disc magazine, I was impressed by the range of colors and the speed of things, but just a terrible idea for a computer. I think we have to all agree. I have all respect to the fans who bought into it, but not a great idea. But what an amazing project this Adventure Club disc was. This first one looks like it was published November 21st, 1991. Dave Whitmore and Phil Glover appear to be the team behind it. And yeah, the free game, that was sort of we'll play this game, and we will talk about what that game is shortly. But what a cool project.
I don't think you're wrong about this. I don't think you're wrong about the SAM Coupé. I saw, when I was doing some research for this online, I've seen one in the flesh. A friend had it, but I discovered someone was describing it. I think they said it was a load of Vero boards held together with a hot glue gun. I don't think the internals were terribly great. I may be doing. I'm going to have to make an apology to the SAM Coupé people now, aren't I? Yeah, I don't think that. I get the impression it wasn't the kind of highest levels of industrial engineering that went into it either. But yeah, in terms of this mag, absolutely fantastic that people were doing this. What a project! Really cool.
It's interesting you mentioned the industrial engineering, because what I've seen of the boards inside, just people's photos of them online, it seems like it had a very low chip count, even compared to something like a Spectrum. which suggested that they probably splashed out for some custom ASICs or, uncommitted logic arrays or something like that to really get the chip count down, which is, that's the sort of the Electron approach from the mid 80s.
Yeah, and very much a Sinclair approach as well, isn't it? Because I mean, with the ULA and the in the ZX Spectrum as well, I suppose it was the way to go. And so I've probably got an apology. I have now got an apology to make to SAM Coupé owners and enthusiasts. And my statement earlier about it being made with very boards and hot glue is probably unfounded. Yeah, just a really interesting project. I assume, Jason, you've done the same as us, right? All of us saw the name of the game, Googled it, realized it was exactly the same as the ZX Spectrum one, and then ran the ZX Spectrum.
Correct. Yes. I had no patience for trying to figure out the quirks of what was going on there. Like for another project, another time, that would be a fun thing to learn. But yeah, for this, yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the departments in the disc magazine before we get to the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful 90s phenomenon of the disc magazine. You've got letters, you've got news. There's quite a few advertisements, actually. I imagine they were probably offered for free to what SAM Coupé vendors there were out there. Just fun to dig through. A little quirky in that there were different text browsing interfaces depending on what module it was. I presume that's a sign of different people assembling them and not really standardizing. You get kind of wrapped up in weird color combos and character sets. They let you customize how you read it. I thought the default settings were pretty good. It would look like it was £1 per disc, or you could send a disc and 2 stamps, and they would send you the thing back. So that was very nice service to the community. Yeah, I thought that it was an impressive array of content until we got to the game.
Yes, we can go on to the game, but I will say my comparison to this was, you mentioned the early 90s, late 80s disc magazines, and we had subscriptions to all of them for the Commodore 64 and 128. So that notion of having lots of different text interfaces for each section comes from the fact that, when you were submitting to these magazines, I got the feeling that you were submitting a binary and not a text file for these text sections. So every submitter would have their own program that would basically be launched into for displaying the text or the information that they were going to display.
I don't know if either of you noticed. I was sort of chuntering through the disc. I was still in SIM Coupé at this moment, trying to figure out the basic and all of that sort of stuff, and worked my way through the directory. I was trying to understand what was in there. And what I find interesting, there seemed to be the source, or at least part of the source, for a different magazine. And that made me think that perhaps what had happened is that the person who put this together may have used some of the code from another magazine. And so some of the bits and pieces for it had been left behind. Now, I should be better at this. I should have written up the name of the magazine. I can't remember it, but there was definitely in there. There was a splash screen for it. Could have. I say this advisedly. It could have been an advert, possibly. Yeah. I don't think it was. It felt like it was the front cover of another magazine. I'd be fascinated to know if anyone out there can tell me.
Yeah, maybe we missed something in a careful read of the editorial or news that kind of explained the origins. But it kind of makes sense that there might have been, an abandoned project that they picked up or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So shall we move on to the star of the show?
Man.
Now, personally, Jason, I think this is, but I think this is arguably should have pride of place. I think when it comes to the image that we're going to have for this, when we advertise this episode of the podcast, right?
Are you suggesting you're placing this game on a throne?
I am placing it on a throne.
Okay.
I'm placing it on a throne. I think there's if you're, if we're going to advertise this episode of the podcast, what more could we want than a large trollish Balrog on the bog?
And that's what we got. That's what we got, because I said, sure, let's do the first disc of the SAM Coupé Adventure Club. What could go wrong? Oh, the free game could be Behind Closed Doors by John Wilson.
What a wonderful game. I really enjoyed it.
Well, let's talk about the mechanics first. Okay. It is a quill game.
Yep.
It's as we said, the easiest way to play this is just to grab a Spectrum image of it. It had a bit of a revival when Adventure On became a thing. John Wilson did at least one variant of it. I think maybe more than one for that platform until unfortunately he passed away. So I was aware of the series and the role it played in the kind of post-commercial UK text adventure scene. I don't know. I guess I figured if we did this show enough, we'd eventually get to it. I didn't think it would catch me by surprise, though, as it did when
Nobody expects.
Oh, boy.
Behind closed doors.
Oh, boy.
Amazing. So, should we discuss the premise?
Please.
We're going to have to. Eventually, we are. We don't want to, but we're going to have to.
Okay, all right. Nick, would you mind doing the honors here?
I think the best way to explain it is I think one of the introductory pieces of text described it as taking place in the smallest room, which is to my experience, is a very English term for the bathroom, the water closet in the home. The littlest room in the house is a euphemism, an old sort of posh euphemism for a toilet.
Yeah.
And so, yes, this is basically a one-room escape room game set in the toilet, and you are sitting. You are the Balrog, the author, I suppose. That was his username. You are sitting on the toilet and must finish up and get out, except that someone, for some reason, has locked you in from the outside.
And that's it.
I mean, that silence. None of us want to go any further into this game, but here we are.
No, so I did try to look at it as an important piece of craft, and I said craft in the IF scene. What I noticed was that, yes, as Nick said, it's a little indirect, and there are things that are oddly underdescribed and what we would call in modern parlance unclued. There's the opening line, which is just part of the intro text that says, sat here like this. Now, that's an important detail and actually plays a significant role in properly finishing the game, but it isn't redescribed as part of the room description. It involves doing things that, honestly, I would not have thought of. You have to examine right wall, not the east wall. And again, this being a one-room game, maybe you can say that compass directions aren't the assumed. I needed help with that because I did not know what I needed to start doing. You're told about the paint on the wall, which didn't lead me to anything else. I thought that would be significant, scraping the paint or finding something. Certain actions were referencing things that were about your body, not in inventory. I was a little surprised that for being something that was clearly written with care and love, and I mean that genuinely, that certain things were unhinted.
One of the richest objects in that room that was most fun to play with from a sort of an interactive fiction design standpoint was the bog roll, which you could end up creating multiple pieces of it and sort of scattered around the room, have it in your inventory.
Yeah.
And yet it wasn't useful for anything. It was a red herring, right?
I wanted to mention that because, this is a toilet. This is a wrapping up in the toilet and getting out simulator, which does require you to, among other things, and I'll just say it, you have to pull up your pants in order to satisfactorily win the game. But that is not mentioned it's not mentioned in inventory. It's not mentioned in description. So, to Nick's point, when I see there's paper, I'm like, all right, it seems like perhaps to get out of this game successfully, I should wipe bum. I figured that's a reasonable thing to do. And I got chided. I knew somebody was bound to try it. The answer is no. I'm like, this is a toilet simulator, pal. Like what? What are we doing?
It's wonderful. There were some. The other thing about it, whether there were lots of little Easter eggs in the game. I don't know whether you came across any of those. The paper in particular had some good bits in it.
Oh, reading the newspaper, yes.
Reading the used papers.
Reading the newspaper, and when you finish the game, he basically says, "Hey, go back and play it, but now enter a bunch of these words and see some other text I put in."
There's some good stuff in there,
and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Very, very much of its era in the UK. Very, very much a kind of cultural artifact, I'd say, from the UK, especially the pages of the newspaper. There's some stuff in there. If you well, I should imagine you probably do if you're listening to this, or at least there's a good chance you love a bit of British 1980s culture. I think that's worth a go. I think this is a great game.
He's saying that with a straight face, everybody.
I am saying that with a straight face. I am very pleased that there seem to have been about 27 sequels to it.
Start your own podcast for those.
And once you did manage to, once you knew what you were doing and you knew there was a right wall and left wall, it wasn't a big job to finish.
Mm-hmm. So to speak. Did you notice? So this does boil down to being a retrieve the key from the lock that you're on the wrong side of puzzle, as seen in Zork 2 and many other games. Yeah. Did you notice? Because I was trying to find other ways to lose the game. Like one way, like I mentioned, the pants. If you escape but your pants are down, you get an unsatisfactory ending, which you basically
didn't happen to me.
Oh yeah.
I wish it had.
It's odd because you can actually. Although the walkthrough talks about standing up as being an important first move, you can actually do everything you need to do while still sitting down. It's just that you won't have pulled your pants out. But what I noticed, because again, I was trying to find other fail states. So I'm like, okay, what happens if I push the key out before I put the newspaper under the door? And actually, you can still just put the newspaper under and get the key back. So I don't know if that was forgiving design or kind of a logic glitch. But either way, you're not dead if you push the key first.
I ran into that because what I did was I figured out, again, I was going through the walkthrough and I figured out how to, exactly the phrasing to put the magazine under the doorway. Because you couldn't, all sorts of things you would expect from our Infocom heritage.
This is an episode about verbs. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And so I put it under and then I thought, oh, great. In my mind, in the model, the key is now on the magazine on the far side of the door. I'll just get the magazine. And when you do that, it just picks it straight up as if you grabbed it through the door and the key and everything. And I went, oh no. And so I put it back and then tried the correct phrasing that I looked up in the walkthrough from Sinclair User from 1990, whatever, and, managed to get the key out that way. So yeah, there's a little bit of the actual simulation isn't quite as precise as some of us would come to expect from our engineering puzzles background.
Guys, I assume that you agree with me when I say that we should start a cadet podcast in which we sequentially play every sequel to Behind Closed Doors. As if we perhaps were doing the same with Infocom. We'd be studying the combined output of John Wilson.
I think that it's essentially like the penalizing you by making you play on the PCW. I think the next time that I misstep, we add another Behind Closed Doors to the roster. I think that's
fair enough. That would be a wonderful present for me to do that.
No,
Jason, I understand where you're coming from here. I can see your pain. I can see it in your face. I can see it behind your eyes.
We're developing a demerit system here. That's amazing.
I think that's an important thing to keep things fresh as we enter year 2.
So the next time you slip up, we'll do the next one.
I think that's very reasonable. Fantastic. So take it that this was definitely my first time playing the game. Although, like I said, I'd been aware of it. Nick, was this your first go? So to speak?
Absolutely my first go. Yeah, I'd never considered approaching this game before.
And it was new to me. And I was delighted. I didn't do this on purpose. This was the whole SAM Coupé Adventure Club thing. It wasn't some devious Machiavellian scheme to cause you to play Behind Closed Doors, Jason.
I wandered right into it. just like the Balrog locked in the outhouse by the Boggets, I walked right into it.
Brilliant. This is a 5 thumbs up from me. I mean, I don't know. I think gentle listeners, you can you can probably gather from our different reactions that we've got different opinions of this game. But personally, I strongly advise you to play it. Maybe don't take the route through the SAM Coupé Adventure Club disc, although that is in and of itself worthy of great merit and worth looking at.
Yeah, I think it's a great disc to explore. It's a real slice of life. Seeing that he's writing to we've got 20 members signed up. It's really heartening to see those types of things back then and really continuing now as we target our gigantic worldwide audience.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I think if you are a middle-aged British man of a certain persuasion, this is probably your game. Otherwise, maybe look for other things in other issues of the SAM Coupé Adventure Club.
Fantastic. Well, speaking as a middle-aged British man of a certain, did you say disposition?
I think
or
so.
Inclination? Yeah. in, in, on that note, shall we move on to our second game? So, Monsters of Murdac. Okay, so this is interesting. This game, originally released 1982 on the Phoenix mainframe at Cambridge University. 88, it gets a release by Topologika. So that's the version that I was playing. And then in 99, we see a Z Machine version, right? So really interesting game. This is Jonathan Partington, who is not unknown to this show.
Friend of the show.
It's quite something. Let's go through that history again. So the Phoenix mainframe. What do we know about that?
So Thackeray, Jonathan Thackeray, designed the TSAL adventure system. There's another initial in there. I'm forgetting that gentleman's name, but one of the first.
JGT1 was his username on the Phoenix system.
Yeah. So one of the first kind of shared extensible languages specifically for developing text adventure games, and we've done Partington's work, Avon as well. When this was a commercial release, Murdac was kind of a pack-in with Avon because Partington was part of the math department and became one of the prolific collaborators and authors on that system. And then these releases started sort of escaping into the UK PC market in the latter half of the 80s as Peter Kilworth's Topologika started bundling them for commercial sale.
Fantastic. So those of you who are not American will notice Jason there has used the term PC. By PC, I guess we mean I played it on the BBC.
As in personal computers.
Personal computer.
And the platforms that these games were and were not released for are intriguing, and we'll get into that.
Absolutely.
I reacted a little bit to that with Avon, and it hit me again playing Murdac. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that because we're obviously highly authentic, so one of us has at least gone and played this on the mainframe version, right? We've got this. We've got the mainframe version. We've got the Topologika one. That was what I played.
So you played the BBC?
Of course I did.
Yeah, of course.
And then we've got the 99 version, and that was a. I understand that was an automated rewrite. Yeah, so that was using a Perl
script. Yeah, there's a Perl script that converts the TSAL code into code compilable by Inform into the Z5 format, and then it sounds like Nick and I played the 2011 update of that.
Okay.
I bundled it just like I did with Avon. I bundled it with the Osmo interpreter and played it in a Commodore 128 emulator because I felt like that's about the right level of machine for it.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
I began with the Topologika version on a BBC emulator written by someone that I happened to be connected to on Mastodon. And it's an old emulator, and it lasted only so long before I got a little bit fed up with the speed and the interface problems, and I just went to the Z Machine and started doing it in Frauds. And that's where, if you run the Z Machine version, the most recent edition available up on the archives, if you type the word Inform at any prompt, it will give you this sort of potted history of the game and its conversion and its porting to all these different platforms.
Cool. And what do we know what the difference is between that 99 release and the 2011?
I'm not sure. It's David Kinder is the one who did it. I suspect it says the Perl script was updated by David Kinder. It basically, it looks like it was just an improvement in some way. The original parser was recreated with all the text responses are the same as the original game. The only additions were the following commands: Inform, producing this text from which I'm reading right now; Restore, which allows saved games to be restored, which the originals only asked about it when you started the game up, when you only first booted the game; and Script for the transcript of play. So it was mostly quality of life stuff, which I tried to take advantage of, and later on we'll get into why that didn't work out for me as well as I'd hoped.
But not the integrated hints, which you did need the BBC or other commercial Topologika releases to take advantage of. Those are not embedded in the Inform version. So I actually had the BBC emulator up and running just to look at the hint system from time to time. But I did play on Osmo on a C128 emulator.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So the premise of the game, you are it's a bit strange, really. We've got, on the one hand, we've got a letter about this forest of, is it the forest of Murdac? And we receive this. I think someone is sent there. Someone has been sent there. I'm not sure it hangs together terribly logically, but the letter says that there's this chap, and he's flown to Murdac And we've got this kind of dear Jocasta letter where he explains how he's terribly sorry, but he has to understand Murdac. And so he's gone there, and there's this old lady called Duessa, who's sort of described as a witch, and she tells him how to, in a sort of almost trance-like state, she tells him how to access the lands of Murdac, this strange place. I found this very, very interesting. The whole thing felt dreamlike to me. Did either of you get that kind of vibe from it?
It's interesting because there's a lot of clues in that initial text about Duessa, muttering about things that will appear in the game, which are mythics elements such as the Old Man of the Sea, like from the Sinbad stories, and other sort of things. Yeah, it definitely has this sense that you might be dreaming all this. You might still be sitting cross-legged in Duessa's, sweat lodge, yes, or whatever, on a hallucination of some sort, or perhaps you have been sent back through whatever magic it is that she conjures.
Yeah, and so you sort of access it by finding. You get some woods, and there's, I can't remember if you're supposed to draw a pentacle or if there is a pentacle, and you stand in the pentacle. You stand in the pentacle, and you shout out, like I did at the start of the show, "Pangori Panthrodulam," which is really Potteresque. The way opens, and you can sort of get through these trees, and it closes after you, and then you find yourself, and then that's where the adventure starts.
And something else that jumped out at me, yes, the immersive nature of this letter and what it tells us, but we haven't talked yet about the fact that, and well, sort of like Avon, this is more or less our real world, but something strange is about to happen. In Avon, we got transported into this, this real Shakespeare world. In this, like, Murdac is a place you can go. The letter says, well, I was going to fly to Kashmir, but I went to Murdac instead. So it is a place you can go, and then yes, access more of it through this chant. But the other thing is that we are not a nameless, faceless protagonist. We are a man named George. We have a wife named Jocasta, to whom we have been married for over 30 years. So we actually have a lot of information going in about who this guy is that, unlike a Colossal Cave, a Zork type, thing where it's just the nameless, faceless protagonist, this is a very specific person. This is George. He's, based on his marital history, he's probably, 50 plus. And he is the one who's running around being throttled by the Old Man of the Sea and so forth. So I thought that was really interesting. And I'm going to come back to this writing later. I don't want to spoil everything. But yes, very, very familiar notes to Avon in terms of the setup. There's a lot of things in the adventure that definitely feel like, yes, this is the same author. These are things that he likes to do. And he does like to paint a picture of not a nameless, faceless protagonist, but somebody very specific who's having this strange sideways experience.
So I think that you mentioned Murdac being a real place you can travel to. However, I think the point of this intro is that it's one of the thin places. It's one of the places where you can have access to another world. Yeah. And the game takes place in that other world. So the idea being that perhaps, you or I here hosting this podcast, we might go and be able to travel to some place called Murdac, but we wouldn't have access to this bridge across the worlds the way the protagonist does.
Right, for sure.
But that's interesting. Again, it's kind of that again kind of reminds me of the sort of Potter business of the sort of platform 12 3/4 or whatever it is. It's that same. It's this world behind the world, isn't it? That's and repeatedly, what I find fascinating about this is the way that Partington winds in all sorts of things that you wouldn't necessarily think an average Joe writing a text adventure would necessarily be commenting on. There's a lot of elements which, to me, he seems ever so erudite. The Toadstone, for example. I mean, that's some really nice bits of folklore and mythology kind of wound in. And then you get kind of silly stuff that's straight out of a sort of Hammer horror and mixed with humor, but the humor doesn't detract from the atmosphere of the game. I was really, really impressed by the writing.
So it's interesting. The Toadstone, I think I first encountered the notion of a toadstone in As You Like It. There's a point where a character says that toads have gems in their foreheads or something. And so when I looked this up on Wikipedia, I went, oh yeah, there it is. So that's, that sort of ties back into Avon. And obviously he'd been doing plenty of, Shakespearean research for that. Yeah, it does also get into some things that I think we wouldn't have seen out of place in Medea, in terms of your sort of mad scientists with, abominations beyond description and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you encounter Greek gorgons and, the old man of the sea and all of these other mythical references that are, trying. This is very much a mishmash of all sorts of mythology, as opposed to, one author or, a particular thematic setting for a particular, real world location or series.
This is a game in that Phoenix Topologika vein. It's really difficult. It is not trying to be your friend. I don't know if you guys looked at the maps that are out there, but there are these color-coded maps that show you like all of the ways you can just wander into death, with red arrows, and it really it's quite striking.
It's so easy to die.
I relied on those.
Now I'm curious about the first puzzle, which is essentially a book it to the place you have to go before the ogres build this wall. I don't know if you can never know if the informed version, maybe something wasn't quite translated right. Maybe there's something in the random number generator in Osmo or whatever. But I found that I couldn't even start the game by typing verbose. Like I had to directly go to get our first vocabulary word, the sham.
Yeah.
Or no, was it something else you pick up first? But like to get past those ogres before they build that wall, you had to go immediately there. And
like north, south, north.
Oh yeah, and the map.
Something like that.
I would like to speak to that actually.
Please.
There is very clear DNA of Crowther and Woods in here, of the original adventure. In the sense that there is a sort of, when you're in the game, there is an upper world and a lower sort of dungeon area that has its own outdoor spaces as well. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is that upper world has, as you say, north, south, north, south, north. The reason you have to do that is because in that upper world, there are not reciprocal directions. So going south, if you want to return to the place you came from, you do not necessarily go back north. And as a matter of fact, in this map, for some reason, you go east. And that is very much the original adventure, right? Where you are traveling through winding caverns and you don't describe the bend in the path you took. And so, you went south to leave this room, but then you curved around and entered another room from the west. And so you have to go west to go back, that sort of thing. And so, you kind of have to do this funny north-south zigzag across the map to get to this place where, for some reason, there are ogres bricking up an alleyway. Before you can solve this sort of Walls of Jericho puzzle. But as soon as you get down into the actual main event dungeon area of the underground part of the game, there's, with the exception of mazes, there aren't any of those funny non-reciprocal paths. It's pretty regular in how you travel through, for the most part.
Yeah, and if you want to see those trolls building a wall, I think that's the sort of cover of the game, isn't it? That's the image for Murdac that you might see is a couple of trolls, and you can go online, look it up, and the first thing you'll probably see if you look up Monsters of Murdac, you'll see this image of the trolls. So, and then we've got the Shawm, wasn't it? Shawm. Which you play, and it makes this, and down come the walls, or the wall.
It's like a medieval clarinet or something.
Yeah, a kind of reed instrument, wasn't it? A Shawm? Yeah,
it's a reed instrument. Yes.
So that was that. One hell of an adventure. I mean, we could go into all sorts of things, couldn't we? Here, where do you want to go next?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about when we played Avon, and we even asked Jonathan about this when he was on the show. A lot of Topologika games don't have Examine. Avon would say, this isn't that kind of game. This game begins with, Examine has been implemented. I'm like, great, thank you. However, it basically just chides you for examining. It says, well, you've already had that object fully described to you, and it kind of just gives the display message again.
But it does give it to you in plain English. Whereas the BBC version still does that thing where when you type, look whatever, it says, the verb look in this game has only been implemented intransitively.
Yes, they do like to chide you about that. What I came away with was, by the standards of, I guess, how I like to engage with a game, it feels under-implemented. You go into a garden of luxurious flowers, which sounds great, but then you can't do anything with or about those flowers. It doesn't reward me for saying, yes, please, Dr. Partington, tell me more. It's very standoffish in that sense, which I really regretted, because you would get these evocative images and I'm like, oh, can you just tell me a little bit more? And in almost every circumstance, his answer was, no, I will not.
No.
And not in a way like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like in some games, Infocom or Level 9 or Magnetic Scrolls, sometimes you feel like when the implementers are up against their limits, you go like, all right, I hear you. You can't give me more about this. In this case, though, I feel like he's just saying, no, I won't. And I don't know. I felt a little sad. So yeah, the other things, at least in the informed version, you have to do I and V. You can't just do I for inventory. It is ultimately a treasure collect kind of game. And again, at least in the informed version, treasures were marked with an exclamation point. At first, I thought they were just very excited about the sword that I'd found. But then you figure out like, oh, okay, we're going to do this for all the treasures. I did think it was interesting. It didn't do that in the inventory display. Again, maybe that would have shown up in the BBC version. There were some puzzles where I went in and I'm like, oh, I know how to approach this. And no, I was completely wrong. The painting with the three monkeys doing the hear no evil. See no evil, speak no evil. I'm like, great. Absolutely. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to cover my ears. I'm going to cover my mouth. All of those was like, no, I don't know what you're doing there. I'm like,
No. Was that? I can't quite remember. Was that that was the one where you end up you drop the lamp on the floor and it shows you that there's actually another way out, right?
Yes, I was disappointed by that one because it was kind of leading you to this idea that it might have been a sort of harmful sensation, like, what is it, Perseus's shield or something with the Gorgon face on it?
Yeah.
I thought that was what it was doing, but there was no actual death. I mean, there are plenty of instant deaths in this game. There was no actual death in that room, but yeah, you were meant to go into a room and there was something horrible looking inside. And so by leaving the lamp behind, you weren't, I guess, distracted by this vision, and you were able to hear whatever message was meant to be conveyed to you, which was the clue for solving the puzzle. There were plenty of situations like that where, again, I'm thinking back to our experience playing Avon, where in Avon, there were a lot of places where you'd hear someone give you a clue in all caps. You knew to take note of that, which you would then take to some other place and use that you'd mostly just speak it or use it to choose an object from a list or something like that to solve a puzzle. There were quite a few puzzles here where it almost felt like the clue and the puzzle were right next to each other. Yeah, so in Avon, there were quite a few word puzzles where the clue was far away from the solution. In this game, it seemed like a lot of them were very, very close to each other, where you would oftentimes even be given a word, and then you were just expected to type that word into the prompt immediately.
Yeah.
So there were some that required a little bit of distance, which, as with Avon, was what did me in. We can talk about that a little bit later. But it was interesting that monkey room was one of them where you just sort of, you had to know not to be distracted by the image. You'd hear the clue, and then you'd, I think, either speak it right there or come back.
Yeah, it was interesting having played Avon, seeing these tropes return, right? The puzzle where there are one of like 5 code words or 3 objects will be shown. It's going to be different each time, which adds to replay value, but also can make things a little tricky as you're trying to fight your way through the game. But yeah, then it seemed to sort of I don't know, lose steam a little bit. And then, we just kept running into things where this random word is generated. The thing you're supposed to do is just then type that word, which started to feel a little unmotivated. The other tropes that we saw return, Avon had some unusual mazes where the way you would navigate it was not so much to map it out, but to find some trick of how it worked. And the haunted house, which once I knew the trick, I'm like, okay, I can work with this. But yeah, the idea that you have to know how your body is facing and move away from the insult offered by the poltergeists was intriguing, to say the least.
I loved it. The poltergeists were pushing you through the maze.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that, and I hadn't, obviously I wasn't on the Avon episode, so I hadn't played that game. The listening to what has happened and the puzzle changing when you play it again. I was really, really impressed by that. I thought that was really, really good fun. There's so many good ideas in the game. This was clearly the author was clearly an ideas chap, and it really comes through. It genuinely delighted me. So
regarding the random number generation, as with Avon, I had exactly the same problem in finishing it, which is that I was relying heavily on ordinary save states. I think, Jason, you were probably using snapshots.
I was.
Am I correct? Yeah.
Yep.
That's the way to do it. Because unfortunately, the random number generator happens on game start or restore. And so if you receive a clue on one side of the map, travel somewhere else, don't use it yet, but save, and then, something happens and you need to restore, you then need to find a way to go back and re-get that clue. And there are some situations where that can lead to dead man walking, where you just run out of a resource. An item is spent. I think, I can't remember. I think for me, there was a scrying bowl that I could only use once. And I couldn't get a new clue when I'd restored the game. And that was just the end of it.
I used the toadstone pretty quickly, but I'm not sure. Is that one where if you didn't use it within a certain amount of time, it would fade off? Or right, okay. I wondered about that. I was like, well, I've done this, and then I realized I'd made some sort of mistake, and I had to go back and retread my steps. And at that point, I was desperately worried that I was going to find that I got back and it didn't work.
I actually had to look that one up because I actually got that one wrong for a while, because I looked it up and I found, here's a history of the toadstone and its use in medieval medicine. And it seemed like the myth was that if you were bitten by a snake or something like that, if you had an adder bite you in the ankle, you would hold the toadstone to the wound site and it was supposed to, bubble and broil and become active in some mysterious way. And so I kept trying to figure out, how is it I'm meant to hold this toadstone in order to prevent me from dying to this venomous beast?
But there was very little that was... I mean, I think it was like the message said, there was very little in there that took more than sort of verb object, wasn't it? It was pretty much all verb object. It was no, hold toadstone to leg or something like that. It just wouldn't have been there. So
which is typical, of the Phoenix games. And I wanted to delve into verbs a little bit. I'd mentioned when we were talking about Behind Closed Doors that this is an episode about verbs. Not only, yes, are most of the problems in this solved, by a two-word approach, there really aren't that many verbs used to solve this game. Notably, other than picking things up and dropping them, there's a lot of throwing.
Yes,
which was not, because I was thinking, all right, if this is the way to address this problem, cover wires with plank makes more sense to me than throwing the plank.
Throw plank, of course.
So throwing, other than the the specific puzzle that needs to be solved early on, where you may have to sing it or shout it or whisper it. In the sort of regular course of the adventure, there's very little verbing going on. Yeah.
There was. I mean, I had to cheat because there was way too much in here that was, and I would probably never have figured it out. No chance. I mean, there's so many. They were clever. There were clever things like you had a look at you read was it reading the gravestone? Here lies so and so. Noise abatement consultant or something.
Mm-hmm. Campaigner.
And so you then had to go and whisper his name rather than shout it.
Yep.
It was clever. It was really clever, but my God, I'd never have figured that one out.
Well, and that's, if you remember from the Avon episode, Nick pointed out that feels like the kind of problem that gets collaboratively solved in the computer lab, where people are sitting around, they're like, well, I got this. Well, I saw that this was a werewolf. Oh, well, what are you supposed to do with this? And putting those heads together, might zero in on, oh, he's expecting this. Whereas, sitting in isolation, it's a little trickier.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you get the full score?
By cheating incessantly, I sure
did.
Absolutely, yeah.
As with Avon, I didn't complete the game. I didn't reach the end. And so I died a couple times and I got scores, originally I died at 22. And then I noticed my score going up as I was dying. So I don't think I got over about 100 and something.
Right, okay. Well, that's very diligent of you to get that far without falling back on the dodgy old internet playthroughs. But
I was reading from playthroughs. I wasn't following one. I was basically hitting a point and going, well, what do I do now? And and also I never would have known the absolute advice at the beginning of those. You must do this first. You have to do this before you go on and yeah, it was tricky, but I tried my best until I would hit a maze and go, oh, where is this maze in the walkthrough? The black hole in particular.
Going back to what you were saying, Jason, about the non-fleshing out of the locations, and so many of them were really, really interesting locations.
Yeah.
I wonder how much in the original, is it TSAL code from 1982, how different that was to the 1988 version, because this didn't feel like a 1982 game to me.
I think it's identical in terms of
astonishing
descriptions, items. Yeah,
I mean, we've played games from back then, right? On
for sure.
This podcast, and I don't believe that we've ever had one from 1982 that's had this depth to it.
I think also we've played games for micros from 1982. You have to remember that, even the original Adventure, Zork, those were all built for big shared computers like this was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a very different model. You have a lot more space. You have room for a lot more text. You have a lot more rich development tools at that time for the bigger, older, more established computers than you would have for home micros. There would have been a lot more resources.
And he wasn't on a deadline.
And I think I'm right in saying that it's interesting, this date 1988. If I remember correctly from the BBC version, at the beginning it prompts you to put in a data disk, and then it loads things from disk. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to know whether or not this was leaning quite heavily on having a disk in the drive. I'm not sure.
For sure.
Yeah, you couldn't have done without it.
Yeah, it's very much the Infocom approach of having the interpreter and then pulling data from disk. Right, to your point, a lot of those games that we'll play on the show that were released in 82, those are trying to fit in a 16K system, all in memory, all at the same time. So that's why he's able to pack some more in there. But yeah, I mean the writing, the refusing to describe the chimera with 9 heads, puns like the ticket inspector.
Yes.
That was wonderful. That was so good that I have a note down here.
A room with alien sounds no synthesizer could ever produce. This is good stuff. And honestly, this is why when we had Dr. Partington on the program, I pressed him a little bit. I'm like, really? You haven't done any creative writing or storytelling since 1989? Because, man, the guy could write.
He really could. And when I was playing this, I didn't realize I'm terrible for the research. I didn't realize this was an 82. It was another one of these ones where I looked at the writing and it shares DNA with Pratchett. It's got that. I've got another one here that I caught, the Centaur Sentry's Scent. You have to get you have to deal with a centaur. There's a bottle. There's the perfume. And it gets referred to as the centaur, who is a sentry, the Centaur Sentry's Scent. And I loved it. It was fantastic. Yeah. He clearly had a talent for it, and it's amazing. It's incredible that he didn't do more with it.
There's also, not to spoil too much, but when the old man of the sea, as in Sinbad, clings to you, the way to get him off is to run into a room that has a regular geyser and just sort of wait for it to go off. And it says, and this is my pronunciation, geyser, but of course it says that the old geezer is pushed off by it. Now, I had a friend at work who pronounced geyser as geezer, and I balked at first. It turns out, sizable proportion of the British population, the two words are the same.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Ben, did you make it to the end?
With help.
Okay, yeah, me too.
I did.
Do you understand the final puzzle and why the answer? Because the final puzzle is you get all the treasures in the room. Yeah. There's the Master of Murdac is there, and he says, what item do you want to take with you to finish your quest? And I don't know why the right answer is the right answer. Why is the right answer the right answer? I
can't remember what it was. Was it a sword?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to throw the sword back, don't you? But you wouldn't know that.
It's Arthurian.
There's an awful lot of sort of learning by dying in this, isn't there?
Oh, sure is, yeah.
So I would imagine, had I not taken the sword, I would imagine that I would have got to the other side and I would have had nothing to throw back. And something hilarious would have happened.
He sends you to a different place. He sends you to a tiny island where you can distantly see the cannibal island in the distance, and there's nothing to do there other than try to swim and die. But again, in a game like this, you don't necessarily know. Is it just that I'm not verbing this noun that I've got correctly? Am I not digging enough times? Am I not saying the magic word that I should have received? Yeah, if you don't choose sword, he exiles you, where eventually basically you just have to end up choosing a death.
Which, again, if you're in a computer lab with a bunch of people, everyone will start laughing. Like, oh, you got sent there, did you? Ha ha ha! Better try next time. You'll do it the right way.
Well, at least it's got replayability, right?
Yeah. You're right. Like from the standpoint of like finishing the Arthurian legend of throwing it back in, and that we get it coughed up from that in the first place. But I guess it didn't feel to me like it was saying better wrap that second half of that up.
I mean, for all we know, we were supposed to go get the myrrh again and give that to
right. We maybe we're gonna be part of the three wise men. I don't know
exactly. Yeah,
you could plausibly think like, well, all right, there's these other things that could be relevant, or is it like? Is it an Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade type puzzle? Do I need to pick the most humble treasure? All right, I'll take the tie pin. I won't be greedy.
That's a diamond. That's a diamond. Diamond tie pin. But yeah.
Unclear. We'll say. So Ben, were you using the built-in hint system as you went along?
No, not at all. No. Once I realized how outrageously painful it would be to do this without. I found an online walkthrough and started using bits of that, and then trying to going back to it when I found myself stuck. So that was where I was once I started having various sorts of troubles early on. The inability to the sort of directional sense, the ability. Well, dear me, the north south thing was difficult enough. But I there's an awful lot in there that was difficult to understand, and I would love to have. I mean, there must have been people back in the day who would have got their money's worth out of this, wouldn't they?
I mean, quite frankly, I'm fortunate that the walkthrough I found, I quickly saw that I needed to keep the ogres out of the underworld, and it was as simple as just locking the door behind you.
But what a nice touch! What a nice touch!
However, these are bricklaying ogres, and they can't handle the door of a hut. It's a little inconsistent.
I guess there were certainly a lot of the monsters that were motivated to do one thing, and then if you placated them a little bit, they were fine. From the pigeon to the ogres, if you kind of tackled one concern, they'd be all right. But you're right.
That's
true. I did like.
It was the Androcles and the lion bit with the whatever you gave the lion to get him to sleep. So you jangle some chimes or something.
The beads. You hypnotized him with the beads.
Yeah.
But I really did like the idea that if you're gonna go stomping around a dungeon, you might want to close and lock the door behind you.
That's good.
That was a good bit. But going to the richness of these games, and we talked about this a little bit when we did Avon, but I'm gonna say it again. These games were basically distributed commercially in the UK. They were ported to, and not even all of the UK dominant platforms of the time. Notably, there's not a Commodore 64 port, which really surprises me. If this runs fine on a 48K BBC, I see no reason why it couldn't have found a home on the 64.
This would have been a 32K BBC.
Okay, well, there you go.
32K BBC, but I do wonder if it's running off the disk drive. If I remember correctly, the disk drive on a C64 takes about 4 weeks to load a couple of K.
It is inherently slow, but by the latter half of the 80s, if you were a commercial game developer that was not working around that, you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah,
so
there were standard patches to fix the serial protocol on those things.
Yeah, so it could have been done. And I will go on and say like that the Apple II I feel would have been a fantastic platform for this in the US, and it did not have an inherently slow disk drive. So I'm really surprised that these games didn't find a home and wider distribution on some other platforms. I think it's a shame. I don't necessarily think they would have been selling flying off the shelves at that point, but I feel like there could have been more of a cottage industry to support them and get them more widely distributed. So I'm really glad that we're able to revisit them now. Glad that Dr. Partington recommended that we play it because that was his recommendation when we spoke to him.
It's great. So what formats was this available on? I mean, I just sort of fell into the BBC one, obviously, but so we have a mainframe, we have BBC. What else?
DOS and Acorn were kind of the big modern cutting edge platforms, and then you got your disk-based Spectrum, CPC, Amstrad PCW. And Electron. Apparently there was a CPC. I think I said CPC release already. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, I did watch someone's playthrough of the Acorn version, and it does make use of the graphics to put up that postcard from the feelies and the browsies.
Okay,
Really?
I saw an image of that somewhere.
Which version was that? Electron.
This is the Acorn version.
Acorn, Electron, or BBC?
No, 32-bit.
Sorry, the Risk OS one.
Oh, sorry. The
Archimedes. Yeah.
I mean, this is a really this set of different computers to me. I think there's a sort of whiff coming off this. You've got the Archimedes, which is a certain type of person. You've got the BBC, same sort of person. So a CPC disc-based Spectrum. I mean, that's what was the +3? So it would have been on a 3-inch disc, which is amazing. Very British. I mean, clearly interesting that there was no C64 there. I wonder why. This was
connected to Acorn Soft in some ways, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think some of the early Topologika games were first put up by Acorn Soft.
Oh, interesting.
Or some of the early Phoenix games, I should say.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Oh, interesting though. 88. I think to my mind, maybe not a certain sort of person, but to my mind, 88. I guess that it's of its time. That would have been very early in the Archimedes life. So this was really and even the PCW, I'd have thought. It's been put on some interesting machines. But again, I'm kind of gobsmacked that it was on the +3 on the Spectrum, but not on the C64.
Yeah,
but maybe Spectrum people were more adventurous. I don't know. Strange.
We've talked about this on the show before, about how that sort of 87, 88 period is a very strange era of overlap for different architectures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that it really was kind of a liminal space for the 8-bit and the 32-bit world.
When did this is funny because it wasn't on it went onto the Archimedes, but not the Atari or the Amiga.
Yep.
Which were around by then.
They were.
But so this is it's interesting. It's
my understanding is that in the UK there was a particular release of the Amiga that made it huge. Like there was some box set of the 500 that
there was some iconic
exploded.
Pack and combos,
that made it take off a little bit after it had released in the US.
So, final thoughts on this. I mean, we could go through loads of puzzles and all sorts of interesting stuff and discuss all of that. And there was some brilliant stuff in there that was really evocative and good fun. Any final thoughts, Nick or Jason?
So again, I'm the one who I think this is mirroring my experience of Avon. I didn't finish it, but I had a great time romping through it and exploring it. It felt to me, it's funny because it was far more logically connected. It was much more of like, here is this dungeon full of fantastic things that I'm exploring that I could kind of understand as a space. Whereas Avon was much more thematically connected. I was, zipping all over these funny universes, but was more connected through the works of Shakespeare. I still feel like I get a very similar feeling from it, that this was a fun world to explore. I don't mind that I didn't finish it completely. And I would definitely recommend it to people.
Yeah. Jason?
I mean, hard. But I gotta say, like the Phoenix games always had a reputation for being extremely hard, and I felt like maybe, at least the way I interpreted that, was they were just hard for hard's sake. And yes, I think some puzzles are certainly unforgiving. But having played 2 Partington games now and being able to say, like, this is how he likes to do this. He likes to do mazes that subvert expectations. He likes to do these random word puzzles. There is thought and craft and art there. Also, it's just very hard.
Yeah, this could be a game that could do with another update on the Inform release to give it a bit more of that sort of the quality of life improvements for things like examining objects and giving maybe some more in context clues and hints.
The one thing that really struck me, and I'm coming back to this, it feels like, we talked about that, or you could just be sat there with whatever her name was, a Duessa, and be in a trance. And it felt like, it felt like a dream to me. Because the locations often would transform, and like you said with the train, where you'd step onto this thing, and it reminds me of dreams that I've had, where the landscape has shifted around me while I've been in the dream, and I was just really impressed by that. I half thought maybe it was accidental. It was just that the thing wasn't held together well in places, but it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was that it genuinely had been written so well that it made you feel a little bit like you were in this kind of, it clearly was this sort of magical realm that was this, liminal, like you say, a liminal thin space. And yet, just for that, that would for our listeners who are considering playing something, I just for that experience, it's definitely worth giving it a go, because it's quite mind altering. So, okay, so are we going to give it a score out of 10? Number of thumbs, fruit. I'm trying to think of. What do you?
I always try to just answer: would I recommend this to?
Would you
someone?
recommend?
To whom would I recommend it? And to me, I would definitely recommend it to someone who isn't going to feel cheated by having to use a hints or a walkthrough or sample maps to make it through the game. Someone who's willing to understand this is a product of its time and explore it. But like you say, because of the depictions, the color, I think that all, like you say, it makes up for some of the places in which it might be technically disjointed. And so I think that's why, if you're listening to this show, I think that's the kind of person who's going to enjoy pulling this up occasionally and poking through it.
Yeah.
I would not recommend going at it blind the way Topologika customers would have in '88.
No.
I think that's a little bit rough.
Be quite frustrating, wouldn't it? I would get a CD by maybe like Gong, a band like Gong perhaps, or the Ozrix, and I would put that on. I'd get myself a nice glass of wine or something, and then I would sit. If I were to do this again, and I would sit down and I'd fully immerse myself. I'd get a lava lamp going or something as well, and I would sit down and I would really, really immerse myself in the half light. And play this game. Jason?
I will give it 3 blonde disguise wigs. I will let you decide what those are out of, but
Lovely.
maybe with a reanimated corpse thrown into the bargain. Again, if you are the kind of person who's listening to this show and have made it this deep in the episode, I do think that it's worth taking a look at. I think that Jonathan Partington is one of the underappreciated mathematicians / authors of the 1980s. And if you like this discipline, if you like this form, it is worth your time with the caveats and warnings, and be ready to struggle mightily, but do recommend it. And do I want to play a Topologika game every month? Probably not. But I think a little pace in exploring the canon has been a good thing.
Fantastic. So, gentle reader, listener, any of that, I think that's it. All that's left to say really is, I would say that this game you've clearly got the recommendation from all the three of us, and I would like to just my parting shot here would be, I'm still holding out for the cover image for this episode of the podcast to be a Balrog on the toilet. When you see this advertised, listener, you'll be able to know whether or not I got my way, or whether Jason's prevailed and put something much more sensible on the cover. But that's for us all to find out in the future. Thank you all very much for listening, and we'll look forward to playing more games and speaking to you in the future. Goodbye.
Listen, if that image comes up, I'm definitely throwing that sword back in the lake.
You've been listening to The Retro Adventurers, a podcast about classic text adventure games. This episode was produced and edited by Jason Compton. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, including Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Podcast Addict. Visit us at retroadventurers.com and follow us on Facebook and Blue Sky. The Retro Adventurers is based on a format originally devised by Ben Collier, Jason Compton, and Dave Hawkins.